tea and cake and
That interesting.
stuff. And they sat round and they danced until the floor was, the dust of the floor around. So it was a great sense of trust between the parents and family.
Sure. Well, the neighbors knew that their children were at your house.
Oh yes, they were right out.
So they didn't have too much to worry about, I guess.
They had...
or were your parents?
They would do the same things when they were away.
Yeah. But your parents were gone.
Our parents were gone. We had these things Sunday night.
Now I understand.
The people next door would have the same... sometimes have things going on like that too. Oh no, there were big families everywhere. And there was a great sense of, they visited at night, the elders back and forth. The man or woman next door might come into our house, our grown-up family, went to visit someone else's house, or there might be dating, be out, see. So, there'd be dances in the parish hall, which they would go to. There were Gaelic classes going in our day. Gaelic was not in when we started school. People on the west coast of Ireland, they were Gaelic speaking. We were in the Midlands. Parents didn't have any Gaelic. There's no Gaelic, whatever in the thing. But then there began to be evening classes in Gaelic, and we went to that for 2 or 3 years at night. Even though there was curfew and you weren't supposed to be out, the British soldiers riding around. But we knew they'd never leave a main road, so all you had to do was step off the main road into someone's field and they passed. And so we were very far ahead when it went into the school. It came in overnight then, and the teachers had to rush off every summer to study. But we had more than they did because we had been going to these, and children pick up languages much faster than. So we were going to Gaelic classes before they started. So when it came in, we had a picnic because we often could detect an error in things they were teaching, see. But it was great. Then they had these revivals, fishes, as they call them, and these were contests in the language, music, Irish dress, supposed to be homespun materials, it had like a square thing with a badge here that swung behind them when they danced, and that was a real Irish costume when they went to those fishes. So we'd spend, from spring on attending those contests for Gaelic speaking, and it was a lot of fun, They never were able to come up with all the prizes that were going to be awarded. All you did was the names were in the papers publicized, where you came out, in all these contests. The only thing I ever remember was getting a couple of volumes of the life of somebody in Gaelic,
Do you remember any Gaelic now?
Well, I remember some, but not too much, You have to, I used to say on St. Patrick's Day, I used to say on my prayers in Gaelic. But it took a bit longer, But it was, it was very... I even hoped I'd be a Gaelic teacher. I wanted to get enough of it to really teach it. And we were lucky. We had, when we went to look out, she going to have a drink. When we... Can I have the bottle? Oh, she's darling. When we went to those classes, I just loved it. I don't think I ever forgot the word. I could stay through 2 hours of it, So then, but it's really difficult language, but not for children.
Right.
Not for children. So we had a great time with it for a couple of years. Then it went on, and but then I used to think to be great to be a real Gaelic teacher. But then politics and the language got interwoven. And everything that happened, they're having a lot of trouble then. So my parents felt we should not get that deeply involved. They were setting up these IRA groups and all that. And while they weren't as mad as they are now, they were fighting the government. So naturally, you had to be a little bit careful there, see. So I think you're going to be a florist.
Tell me about your parents. What were they like?
Well, my father was very retired. He had a couple of serious illnesses when we were little. In fact, there was a time where he had such a serious heart condition that my little sister was carried to school to keep the house quiet during the day. We went to school, and I think there were times when they didn't think he'd be alive when we came home, because we went in faithfully every morning to kiss him goodbye, to bed, and sometimes he would ask my mother to give us pennies for, she had to keep providing us with. So but then when he did. He was in bed a whole year, and it was another year really sitting in a chair. And the doctors said he would never amount to anything. He had a heart condition, he had pleurisy, I don't know what else he had. But I remember 3 different doctors coming, a local doctor. Then my mother got another one who was supposed to be. And then there was one who was a real practitioner. He did, well, I think he was really a bone specialist, if you ask me. But he came and he saw all those children around the house. So he began to lecture my mother and tell her that, the money was wasted on somebody who would never really amount to anything. The most he ever could do would be to sit in a chair. So she heard him out. And when she was finished, she asked him if he ever left the house without his money. You had to pay every time you came. And the fee was a guinea. And, well, a pound was one thing, but 21 shillings was a guinea. It should be like $5 now or that, but that was a lot of money over there. She asked him if he ever left without it, and he said no. So she said, this is the last time. Now she said, you take yourself out, and I don't want to ever see you in this house again. He had told my father all this. Imagine telling somebody that he had a heart thing and that he wasn't this and that. So she pitched him right out and told him that, well, he kept saying it's wasted, it's wasted. And she said, I don't ever want to see you cross my threshold again. So she went. She had found my father very depressed after his visit, really down. So she said to him once, what was the trouble? And he said, I'm going to die. And, I can't think of all the children grown up without a father. And she said she doesn't know what really prompted her to say it, but she said to him, I don't think you want them to have a mother either. She was tired of doing that. She said he began to get better. He began to get better. But
because she felt like she was working too hard taking care of him.
Well, the thing was, he became conscious that this was, See,
Right.
she had taken care of his father for 6 months before he died.
Oh.
She loved the old man. He helped her with the children, and she loved him dearly, her father-in-law. And she always felt that the blessing he gave her on his deathbed was what took care of her family. During their lifetime, they never lost a child. They never had a child in a hospital. There never was a serious illness. My father's young. There was never anything but 13 children.
That's very good.
All 13 were living when they had their golden jubilee.
That is amazing.
She felt that.
And what was the blessing?
Huh?
What was the blessing that he gave?
My brother?
No, you said that your grandfather gave a blessing to
my mother.
to your mother. What was it? Do you know?
Well, we were only babies. I don't know whether I was born or not. I mean, some of them. There were a lot of little children now that he was helping her with
I see.
after their marriage in their early life. But he was dead before I came along. But she always said, he told the priest he wanted to get out of bed, to kneel on the floor and bless the woman who took such care. And the priest said, you do it right where you are. And he said, he prayed and with her. She said, I know it took care of me down the years.
I see.
See, so, but my mother was much more outgoing. Helena has a little of that. You know, she had a long stretch of cousins. You know, it was a great many of Coyle family. Her mother had quite a few.
Where were they from?
They were all around in the parish, between Roscommon and Athlone. But most of them were in the Four Roads to Sarah parish. Now, they had priests, doctors in the family. You know, they had extensive land farms. They were comfortable, as you would say. And so, their children in the first generation, then would be my mother's age. Now, they never went to the fairs, markets, without dropping in to our house. We were on what would be a main road, you people couldn't, but they would stop in on the way. So we had a lot of people. Well, they didn't mean anything to us, but we were cousins, and they wouldn't pass without visiting my mother, which meant they were there for a meal, or, you know, and my father was very quiet. There wasn't many on his side of the family. And I suppose through having all those illnesses, he was more retiring anyway. But he was beautiful when they came. He was very welcoming and very, very hospitable, you know, all that. But I mean, they were all nearly on my mother's side, all these Coyle cousins. There was one used to come in, and I like that. I think all my frights were in the cradle. This cousin of my mother's was a Coyle. She was a young woman, but she had sparkling brown eyes, very, you know, real. And I can remember waking up and looking into. She was always playing with babies, you know, and she'd bring home the baby and all this. And I remember waking up, she had this loud, to me she was loud voice and sparkling eyes. And I was so frightened that I screamed. And I couldn't get over it. And she faithfully visited. She always had a bicycle, and when she passed, she had to drop in to see the cousins. Whenever I heard her name as a child, I made sure I wasn't around. I either got under the bed and hid in there, or I got out to the fields. Uh,
Heard it by pushing